Welcome to Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. It's August 6th, and it's that prime time of the summer when these bucks should be super visible. Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail App, Whitetail Institute, Research Equals Results, B3 Releases, XO Broadheads, Exact Sights, and Hoyt. The spot that I'm sitting has just been chewed practically to the ground. I planted 2/3 of this spot. It's probably a 3-acre plot. I'd say 2 acres to beans and 1 acre to sorghum. The deer don't eat the sorghum during the summer, but boy, they sure do eat the beans. They've got this thing mowed down. I did come in here about 10 days ago and I drilled with that PH Outdoors drill wintergreens into the beans. So even though the beans are getting eaten real hard, there's going to be something here when the season comes. I mean, there'll be plenty of food. I mean, the sorghum will be good, and then the brassicas coming up in that wintergreens blend. That'll be really good. But I'm hoping that with all the amount of browse pressure that's been on this plot, that something is coming out here that we can film this evening. I did driving over here. This is in the far northeast corner of the farm, so I had to drive pretty much through the whole farm to get here. I bumped 2 deer driving here, a doe that was eating apples, and a pretty nice buck. I didn't get a good look at him, but pretty solid deer. I think he was gonna go out and eat apples too, from where I saw him. Then when I got here, I had a doe and a fawn that were already out in the plot, and she spooked and ran off. But there's still quite a lot of daylight left. I'm guessing with as much, like I said, browse pressure as there's been on these beans, that there's more than 1 doe and a fawn coming out in here. So I'm sure plenty more deer are gonna make it before the evening's over. It's just fun to be back in a blind, sitting on the edge of a food plot. Just makes me feel like hunting season isn't that far away. The cooler weather helps a lot too. Been super hot, and then just starting yesterday, the temperatures dropped, and that gets a guy thinking about hunting too. Basically a month from now is when it starts for me. So this coming month is more about, getting the final preparation and work done on the farm. I don't shift into hunt mode until around September, first week of September. Then it gets serious. Starting in September, like I said, first week of September, bucks have broken up their bachelor groups. They've left their summer ranges, more or less. They're starting to disperse from their summer ranges. And I'll get my trail cameras out, and that's when I'm going to start to find out which bucks are here, how much they've changed from last year. That's always, the more I do this, the more it's the little stuff that's the most fun for me. And I do think that just seeing how the bucks change from one year to the next in both their antler form and in their behavior, I find that part fascinating and probably as interesting to me as the hunting itself. So September through the middle of October is kind of like a 5-week Christmas, because I get to go out and check my trail cameras every few days and see what these deer are up to and how they're living, what they look like, how much they've changed, if there's anything new here. All of that stuff is just part of the story, part of what makes the hunt personal. So I'm gonna shut it down now for a minute, get back to filming, but I'll check in again soon. something had to be coming out here with all the browse pressure on these beans. I mean, something had to be eating these beans. It wasn't just that doe and that fawn. I'm not going to be able to do any more interviews here because it's really getting dark, but I can still film because the primary camera does a whole lot better in the low light than this GoPro. Plus, it's dark inside the blind. So I'm going to show you anything else that comes out. I've got probably 15 to 20 minutes left, I would say, of camera light. Hopefully something else pops out. I mean, that's a nice buck. This farm had a ton of those last year. A ton is a relative term, but that's just a nice 2-year-old probably. And there were lots of nice 2-year-olds on the farm last year. So there should be some pretty solid 3-year-olds that are going to show up here pretty soon. It's funny when I say a ton, because a ton on this farm looks a whole lot different than a ton on that farm that I hunted in southern Iowa. If you watch many of my videos, you'll see a lot of B-roll. You'll see, let me get this buck back on here. You see a lot of footage that I use. It's from that farm in southern Iowa, and big herds of bucks, great big giant deer. This place is a far cry from that, but that's okay. I talked about it last fall, and I'm sure I'll talk about it more as we start getting into the season. I don't want a ton of deer, and we'll get into that. I'm getting back on there. I'll get into that topic more. Like I said, it's a lot easier to manage the deer, the habitat, even the people around the neighborhood, the farmers. Just a whole lot easier to make it all work if there aren't tons of deer. But it would be nice if there was a good huntable number of solid mature bucks. And I do think we'll have that this year. Well, if anything else pops out, I'm going to show it to you here at the end of the blog. I guess it's not a blog, it's an episode. I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you back here again soon for the next episode of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always dream big.